Melinda, when you initially made contact with Angelo Agrizzi, or before you made contact with him, you write that you were repelled by him, but that, circumstances sort of flung you together. And as you got to know more about him, your opinion has changed of him. What did you experience when you saw him again for the first time in a long time in ICU?
Well, I'd never seen him before. I mean, I'd seen him on Zoom. I'd seen him during, because of COVID. I mean, he lives in Joburg. I'm a Cape Townian right now. I used to be a Joburg person. So I'd never met him face to face in human form. And after everything happened, and by the way, I just want to correct you, I'm the publisher of Inside the Belly of the Beast and the editor. I'm not the writer. I'm not the author. And it's Angelo Agrizzi's memoir. So for me, when all of this, his bail was denied, he didn't have a phone, I couldn't get hold of him, we were going to print. You can imagine it was very tumultuous kind of time as a publisher and as someone who had grown quite close to Angelo Agrizzi, despite my reservations around his, the things that he had done in the past, the corruption, the racist tape that was played at Zondo, all of those things were big deterrents for me. But I believe that the book that Angelo Agrizzi has written was so important in terms of public interest. So when I got an opportunity to go to Johannesburg last week, I literally begged his wife if I could just spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes with him. It's COVID. It's not easy to get into an ICU ward. There are so many restrictions. They only allow 1 hour visiting a day, one person a day. I had to really, really beg and plead to say it is my only time that I'm going to be able to meet him in the flesh, and that is what I did last Thursday.
Melinda, he's been through a lot since his bail was denied. Just take us a little bit through a bit of his journey.
Well, I mean, I think the bail denial came as an absolute shock to all of us, but especially to Angelo and his wife, Debbie Agrizzi, and the Agrizzi family, and Manny and Danny Witz, his attorneys. There was no indication from the state that they were going to try and deny bail. So it was such a shock, and he was, he's not a well man. He was never a well man. He's got many comorbidities that he's dealing with. He was on an oxygen tank in court. You could see that. And he was led away out of the court and taken to Johannesburg Central. I think when I spoke to him on Thursday, this was such a shock for him. He really didn't really quite know what was going on, I don't think.
I want to hear specifically, sorry to interrupt you, we are short on time, and I know that his experience of someone, and he doesn't say who, perhaps you can give us more information, tried to take his life.
Well, I think that very strange things happened along this journey, which none of us are party to, none of us were there. It would be interesting to see what the Department of Correctional Services have to say about this. When he was put in his cell on the Wednesday night, the lights went out at 9, and at about 10 o'clock, he distinctly heard something rattling at the cell door, and somebody come into the cell. Who this was, what they were doing there, nobody knows. Next thing, he's unconscious. He's in the Chris Hani Baragwanath, completely and absolutely, in a completely different health state to what he was when he walked down from the court. His health deteriorated really badly when he was in Chris Hani Baragwanath. There were no doctors properly attending to him, no nurses. I mean, there's a whole other story from the public hospital that we would like to have answers to for what happened to him there. And the next thing, he was rushed to a private clinic, and he has been on the verge of life and death. He has been unconscious for a lot of the time. He is on permanent dialysis now. He did not have these issues before he went and was led into prison. So the big question is what happened to him on that night and what happened to him at the public hospital.
Melinda, and I'm sure that authorities are going, hopefully authorities are going to be investigating that and looking very deeply into what has happened to him. But I want to ask, what is his medical condition now, quite briefly, and what are his hopes to recover in order specifically to return to the State Capture Commission?
Well, I mean, that is the big dream I think that Angelo Agrizzi has, is that he wants to go back to Zondo and cross-question certain people that he's named at Zondo. He is on dialysis every day. He's got complete kidney failure. He's on a full-face respirator most of the time. This morning I spoke to him. He says he's got water on the lungs. The doctors have just found water on the lungs. He's in a terrible state. He can hardly sit up. He has people helping him to sit up. So the kidneys are the biggest problem. I mean, kidney failure is something that is a very worrying thing. Organ failure is a threat. When the kidneys fail, they're desperately trying to get his kidneys to work again.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. Regardless of what Angelo Agrizzi has been accused of, he is a whistleblower. And we've seen again the importance of protecting whistleblowers.